Battle Through the Heavens. Chapter 126. A Lethal Strike of the Flame-Splitting Wave. Following the failed assassination attempt, the stage is set for a direct clash between Xiaoyan and the powerful He Meng. The young warrior channels his inner strength, preparing to unleash a force capable of shattering even the toughest defenses. As the air vibrates with raw energy, the true battle for supremacy finally erupts in the heart of the mercenary camp.
A heavy surge of energy appeared behind He Meng. He felt the force, and his face twisted. He slammed a foot into the ground and let out a low roar. His bare back turned a dull, stony white.
Octane blast.
Xiaoyan opened his hand. The sudden rush of energy shredded his sleeve. He pulled his fist back and then drove it forward. The air hissed as his knuckles cut through the wind. He Meng heard the sound and felt a jolt of shock. He could not believe a boy could harden his body to such a degree. The impact sounded like a heavy bell. The ring of metal on metal echoed through the tent. Xiaoyan kept his face still. His fist slammed into the center of He Meng's back. The force traveled through his legs and into the ground, carving a hole half a foot deep. A soft crack followed. A fracture split He Meng's spine. He Meng grunted and forced his internal energy to hold the bone together. He looked over his shoulder and laughed.
"I told you,"
he said.
"You cannot break my defense."
Xiaoyan pulled his hand away. He let the corner of his mouth curl into a small smile.
Blast,
he whispered. A muffled thud echoed from inside He Meng's chest. His smile died. His eyes widened with a look of pure terror. He coughed up a spray of blood mixed with bits of his own lungs. His rigid body went limp, and he collapsed into a heap on the floor. Xiaoyan looked at the body for a moment. He brushed the dust from his hands, turned, and walked out into the night. The morning sun broke through the trees. Light fell in patches across the camp. The mercenaries on the ground began to stir. They sat up and rubbed their eyes, confused by their deep sleep. Then they remembered. They grabbed their weapons and ran toward the main tent.
Commander.
One man shouted. There was no answer.
The men stood still. A cold feeling settled in their guts. One mercenary stepped forward with a heavy blade and sliced through the tent fabric. The cloth fell away. He Meng lay on the floor. His eyes were wide and fixed. A thick pool of blood stained the earth around him.
"The commander is dead,"
someone whispered. The men turned pale. Some of them sat down where they stood, their legs giving out.
By noon, the news had filled Qingshan town. Everyone spoke of how He Meng had been murdered in his own camp. They said the killer was the boy with the bounty on his head. Rumors claimed Xiaoyan had already killed 20 men from the Wolfhead Company. People laughed at the thought of the mercenaries being hunted by a teenager. They wondered how Mu She would ever show his face again.
In a quiet room, the little fairy doctor was mixing medicinal powders. Her hand jerked when she heard the news. She spilled the vial, ruining the batch. She shook her head and set the bottle down. A small smile touched her lips.
So Xiaoyan chose to fight back.
She murmured. She sat in a chair and pulled a colorful book from her robes. She ran her fingers over the cover. If he killed He Meng, he must be an 8-star Dou Qi by now. His progress was frightening. She had only been away from him for a few months.
The maid called from the door. She said Manager Yao wanted to see her. The little fairy doctor frowned. Yao was the head of the 1,000 Medicinal House. She knew why he was coming. She hid the book back in her clothes and told him to enter. She was a guest in his house and had to show him respect. A man in expensive robes walked in. He was smiling. He asked how she was doing. She nodded and stood up to pour him some tea. Yao watched her as she moved, his eyes lingering on her back with a greedy look. When she turned around, he quickly looked away. He took the tea and asked if she had heard about Xiaoyan. She kept her face calm. He asked if the boy had been with her when she found the treasure in the cave. She shook her head. She told him Xiaoyan had only saved her from a fall while she was picking herbs. She said they found no treasure, but she heard the Wolfhead Company had stayed behind to look for something. She suggested Yao should ask the other mercenary leaders to check on what Mu Shi was carrying. Yao's face changed. He laughed it off and told her that if she saw Xiaoyan again, she should invite him to the house. He claimed he did not fear the Wolfhead Company. She promised to pass on the word, but reminded him she and the boy were barely acquaintances. Yao left shortly after. The little fairy doctor watched the door close. She looked at the cup he had used. She knew he would not stop. She hoped he would not force her hand. She was not a strong fighter, but she knew her poisons. She looked at the green tea on the table and thought of Xiaoyan. You survived the wilderness with me, she thought. Do not lose to a small place like this. Across town, the mood was dark. He Ming's body lay in the center of a large hall. Mu Shi stared at the corpse. His eyes were red and his teeth ground together with a chilling sound. Mu Li stood nearby, his heart racing. He had hunted Xiaoyan just a month ago. He could not believe the boy had grown so strong. He Ming was one of their best fighters.
We have to kill him.
Mu Li thought. If they didn't, the boy would eventually come for them all. Mu Shi looked up at his son. Both men shared the same murderous look. Mu Shi noted that Xiaoyan must have high-level techniques to kill a man like He Meng. He gave the order. Starting tomorrow, every man above 5-star strength would remove their badges. They would dress as free mercenaries and enter the Magical Beast mountain range in groups of 5. If they found Xiaoyan, they were to signal immediately. Mu Shi clenched his fist.
I don't believe that little brat can escape me forever,
he said.
Your life ends here.